talk about putting in a cab heater in a 2021 cfmoto zforce 950 Sport. This is mine here. I've got it pretty much taken apart. There is already some things taken off that I'm going to point out that you're going to need to pull off in order to make this work. The cab heater that we purchased for this is an Inferno cab heater. It comes with instructions, but there's some differences in the instructions that we're going to point out that we didn't do because it wasn't really necessary to do. So, first thing that you're going to do on the passenger side here and on the driver's side is remove both of the seats. It'll give you access to where you're going to need to run the hoses to hook up to the engine. Along with this back panel here, you don't need to completely remove it. The ECM is on here. So you just move it out of the way so you have a little bit of access. On this side here, the cab heater is actually mounted into the cowling housing here, which the drive shaft is right below. What you're going to need to do in order to make this work, according to the instructions, you need to remove the upper dash panel and go from the top down to put it in. The upper dash panel has several screws and fasteners that you really can't get at. So I'm going to show you a way that's actually a little bit easier rather than trying to remove all that stuff and get it out of the way. On this side here, you have a bunch of push button fasteners, which are actually these here. The center pops out if they're not frozen there with dirt, but the center pops out and pushes in and then expands out to hold the plastic in place. There are several of them along with a couple screws for the top panel here. So pull all these out. You can leave these two front ones in. That way it'll give you enough flex. This top panel has two screws on either side. But before you can pull this off, there's a little panel here, and I'll grab that. This panel here, that needs to be removed. So you can pop this panel out because that lays over the top of it. Then if you set the emergency brake, you can wiggle that out of there. If you want to make it easier, you can disconnect the emergency brake cables. It will make it a little bit easier. So once you have this panel out, there are two bolts underneath here. You want to loosen up both these bolts. That will allow you to move this panel out of the way so that you can push the heater box or the cab heater box and blower up from the bottom to get it up in there. Now, this box is actually a little bit bigger than what you have for an edge here. So you need to cut out the plastic that folds over the top a little bit wider on either side of this bracket so that you can actually get it to sit down in there. Now, going to the other side, I'm going to kind of show you a couple things that we figured out. We put a vent right here. Now, these vents are two-piece, so you drill the hole, cut the hole. For the heater box, there is a bracket on this side that you have to put a screw in. The only way you can gain access to put that screw in is by cutting this hole. That you could try to go from the top down, but there's so much wiring and other crap in the way, it's not realistic. So cut this hole, then the bracket's right here, then you can just run a self-tapping screw in. And then once that's in, you can completely fasten the box. It actually comes with 3 rivets. You're only going to use 2 because I think they designed to put a rivet here also, but it's just not realistic for installing the heater box. So the other vents that were put in after it was set in there, we've got a vent here and a vent here. There's a bracket that runs right here. And so you have to make sure that these vents are towards the back of the vehicle, and you can reach underneath and you can kind of feel it, but you want them towards the back of the vehicle enough so when you cut the hole, The vent is two-piece, so it's got a front and it's got a back that screws on. You want to be able to screw that back piece on and have enough room to get the flexible venting pipe on there. So this one here has, just like I said, the one bracket mainly, it's in the way. This other one has, besides this one runs here, you have another one that runs right here. And let me grab a flashlight and we will kind of show you what that looks like. You can see that there's a metal bracket right there next to that wiring. So you need to have it over to the left side or driver's side as much as possible. And I like to try to make things equal, so I kind of made the same spacing from the right to the left so that you can get around that bracket with the flexible hose. So putting the hoses on the heater box, what I found was the easiest way to do it is, once it's fastened down, the vent that faces down that I was showing you for access for the screw, that one should be done first. It's the furthest away, that way you're not backing yourself into a corner. And then you want to do this one here, and it just comes right straight up. And so that will be also on, that would be the most forward right side of the heater box, because there's 4 holes for the vent tubes. Then this one here would be next. So basically you drop it, you can reach down, have somebody else reach down there, feed the pipe up to it, or down to them. They'll feed it up to you, however, so that you can make your connection between the vent and the heater box. The last one that was put in was this one right here. This one's pretty easy to get at. However, this one's kind of a tight spot in a way. You can't go down too far because then you're not gonna leave enough plastic here, and you can't go up too far because then you're gonna be into the wiring of the switches and everything. So you kind of have to look at where this one fits best, and I'll give you kind of a measurement of where that one is. If I can find it, yeah, here's my tape measure. I'll kind of give you a measurement on where I put all these, but you'll have to double check because it may not be the same. But from the top of the vent cover to the bottom edge, you got about 5 3/4. And that kind of seemed to be the sweet spot. Once that one was in and everything, excuse me, I put the vent tube in. So that was the last one to go in. Each one of the vent tubes gets zip tied to the snout portion of the heater box and to the actual vent itself. Let's see, we can kind of measure up these front ones here so people can get an idea. So we've got, if I get rid of, well, let's see, if I go right from the outside, we got about 2 3/4 right there. And you're probably roughly 3/4 of an inch towards the back to kind of give you a rough idea. I mean, it's not all going to be exact. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, but that's my machine and what I found to be the easiest. So we've got that in there now. Now it's a matter of putting the hoses in. I've already put the hoses in, but I'm going to kind of explain to you how I did them and why I did them the way I did. The hoses, according to the instructions, it really didn't say on keeping them up or keeping them down to following the pipes. What I did is, because this heater box here, this blower cage is down here in this cowling, that's where it's gonna suck the air in. I kept the hoses up because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna block off, you got a piece of plastic here and a piece of well, this is my cardboard, never mind that. That's my CAD design, cardboard animated design. I'm gonna run a piece of plastic all the way up from the front there to the back here. One of the issues that we always had with this machine was going through water or whatnot. There are pipes down here and it would get super hot in here and super steamy from those pipes, the water hitting the pipes, and it would get too warm. So we're gonna block off some of that, which will also eliminate a lot of dust coming through here, which then hopefully will kind of save the blower motor from trying to suck up all that dust and then blow it throughout the entire machine. Now granted, it's still gonna be open in the back here a little bit, but at least not the whole front area. So we'll try to eliminate a lot of that. So the two hoses are 5/8, and there's 2 clamps on here. These hoses can be accessed from the bottom. Pulling the bottom panel off or skid panel off and walk over here and you kind of see, pulled off the front panel and the main skid panel, which had a lot of crap on it, but that gives you good access to get those hoses out. So back to the hoses now. The only way to get these clamps on this heater box is you've got to get the hoses started before this heater box is mounted down. So, you know, you can get it notched out, you can get it fitted. That's what I did. And then I kind of had somebody, I pushed it up a little bit, had somebody hold it, and then I pushed the hoses on. Mind you that this heater core is aluminum, so you don't want to be pushing it too hard or you're going to end up breaking the heater core. Or it's a possibility it could leak. So I put a little silicone spray on the heater hoses and then pushed them on. You can use silicone spray, a little bit of grease, lithium, whatever. And then getting at the clamps, you have to tighten them from underneath. There's no other way to get at it. So hoses on, heater box been kind of notched out on the one side so that it can fit in there. Then go ahead and use the 2 rivets over here. Drill the hole. Now the 2 rivets that they give you, keep in mind those rivets are actually a little bit too long because of the blower motor being so close that the rivets are actually about a 1/4 inch too long. So when you stick them through, they actually hit the blower motor. So I went with shorter rivets that I had on hand and fastened it that way. Also, when you're drilling a hole, be careful that you don't go too far or you're gonna drill right in the heater core. So you gotta be really careful. Being it's plastic, it likes to grab and it will go right in. So the 2 rivets here, put those in, and then you've got the 1 self-tapping screw that you can gain access right through the hole here that you put in. So kind of going a little bit out of sequence, but mainly you wanna get your blower motor and heater core assembly in place, cut out, fitted, hoses in, and then start hooking up all your ventilation hoses and whatnot. So with the heater core hoses, I ran them through right here, and the edge here is nice and rounded, so you don't have to worry about it rubbing in, but I'll make sure to fasten it anyways. On this side here, we got a small bracket right here that's kind of got a little bit of a sharp edge. So what I'll do is I'll take a piece of 3/8 fuel line hose, cut it to length, and then I'll cut one side of it, put that over that edge, and then fasten it. Both the hoses run back, and they go back. They actually hook up back at the motor. There is 2 different T connections. One is aluminum, one is plastic. The lower one is 1 inch through and through, and then a 5/8 that comes off for the actual heater hose itself. Now the top is comes off the thermostat, and that's 5/8 on all 3. Now I haven't hooked up the top yet because I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. That's the reason why I haven't hooked it up yet. So not a big deal. That'll be a different video. But so hose is right back there. I can kind of show you. This is how the best way I found to run it. And I haven't looked at the instructions exactly to see if that's how they had it as far as the angle. I believe it is though. And this is actually where they tell you to hook it up, which makes perfect sense. Coolant is like electricity, so it takes path of least resistance. So obviously the 1 inch is going to pass more water than the heater core itself. There's still going to be water flowing to the heater core. The water pump is designed to push, not suck any type of coolant, just pushing it. It's like a big windmill pushing air. So it's actually gonna push it through. Now, they also sent, let's see, it's right here. They sent the shutoff valve so that if you don't want anything going through the heater core, you can actually shut it off. And I think the best way that that's gonna work out, it didn't really point it out where to put it, but I think the best place to put it is gonna be coming off of the top hose. Now my top hose is actually this one right here. So if this was the thermostat right here, putting it right about here is gonna make the most sense. Coming off the T. Now the plastic T essentially is just like this. So you would cut this side here, put the T fitting in it, and then obviously this goes down to the heater hose itself. So you put the valve right here in between that because you don't want to block off the coolant to the radiator. You just want to block it off going to the heater core in case you don't want any type of heat coming through there if it's really hot outside or whatnot. Or you could just leave it on. You could also, if you left it on, it would be an additional radiator in a sense because it is pulling heat off the cooling system if it was super hot outside. Whatever you decide to do there. Just kind of giving you an idea of what I figured out through everything. The last thing I know I kind of touched base on a little bit about blocking off that cubby hole there that's right above the drive shaft so that we don't get dust and dirt in or whatnot. The easiest way that I have found, cardboard animated design, take some cardboard, kind of draw out, measure out, kind of see what you're going to use and need. This is what I figured out for the front portion. There's a little flat up here. There's wires that come down right through here. So then I can fasten it right here with a screw and I won't hit anything. And then I'm gonna go back a little bit further as far as I can and then fasten on that other plastic. After you get these all cut out and made up, a piece of high durable plastic you either can get on Amazon or what I'm gonna use is an old mud flap. I've got enough length there. Once I get it all finished on what it is gonna be for shape, then I will actually draw it out and then probably use like a rotozip or some other little air saw to cut it or something like that. So, well, I think that's about it. The wires, that was the other thing, the wires and switches. Forgot about that. This heater system is actually quite nice. It has an electrical plug on the heater core itself, and then it comes with a short harness for the switch, the heater core, and the main leads go into the switch. It's actually a really nice design. I like that. It's not cobbled together. They don't just send you some wires with some eyelets and other crap. The switch I put off to the far right, that gave me enough room off to the side of the heater core to get my hands in there. Push the harness through after you cut out that blank and then plug it into the switch. I use a lot of dielectric grease on the actual switch male and female ends before I connected it together because obviously these go on water and other elements that you don't want corrosion, and then just pop it in. The end here that actually goes into the heater itself, can't really see it right there, kind of. Again, lots of dielectric grease, fill all the cavities, fasten it together. And then the two wires, the positive and negative, actually run right over the top here, but between both the hoses and then right straight up. And I'll show you where that comes out. I've got to come out right here, right behind, so right between both the hoses, behind the winch solenoid, and it's right up to the battery. This one did not come with a fuse cover, but before I put the fuse in, I made sure to put a lot of dielectric grease in there, and then I'll probably just take some electrical tape and wrap over the fuse just in case to keep water and other things out of there. So things don't go awry when you're on the trail, because that's the one thing that sucks the most, is when things don't go right. So I think that's about it. That is the full install for the most part. The last thing to do would be to fill it back up with coolant, run it. There is a bleeder, I believe, on the thermostat that everybody should be aware of. Right up here. Okay. Pause it. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do, as I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, was on my cfmoto, to put these front cab heater vents in, you're gonna wanna pull the windshield out. The windshield gives you plenty of access to get, this hole cut. Also gives you the opportunity to lift this panel up. There's 4 fasteners in the front here that you should pull up so that you can lift this up and get a little more access to hook up the hoses to these vents. And it's not a must, but it was a little bit easier for me to work with the tubing and moving it around and everything, so I could have a hand on the bottom, a hand on the top. To pull the dash out is a lot of fasteners, a lot of screws, a lot of them are hidden, so that was a lot more work than I wanted to go into. But when you lift this panel up, be careful, it does have its limitations because it is plastic. So when you go to lift it up, just be kind of easy with it, and make sure if you are in a cold environment, warm the vehicle up first. The plastic will bend a lot easier and move a lot easier before it cracks. I would say if it's below 45 degrees, you don't want to monkey with it because you're probably going to crack it. These are all the tips and tricks that I learned installing a cab heater, the Inferno cab heaters, on my 2021 cfmoto zforce 950 Sport. If you have any comments or concerns or anything like that, you can always send them to me and I can try to help you through them. I would watch the entire video all the way through. I did my best to try to put it in as much order as possible so that things didn't get missed, but there's a lot of pieces of information in there that I figured out throughout the way trying to install it. The total time that it took me to figure all this out and install it was about 10 hours. It would probably only take you a couple hours after watching the video. Thank you.